is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. We got very special guests today with us. Carlos, Los Talks Bats. We're here with Jace as always. We got a bunch of different stuff on tap for tonight. We got free agency, going over what's happened so far, if there's any moves the Patriots should make from here on out, and then we each did our own little 3-round mock drafts that we'll touch on, and maybe you guys can vote on, see who you like the best. So, Carlos, how's it going?
It's going good. You know, we were just talking backstage. There's a lot to talk about that, or just topics in general that we can talk about. But I've been wanting to talk to you guys for a while. It's been a while since I've hopped on with you guys. So there's definitely a lot of banter going on backstage that we could bring into the live audience as well.
Yeah, maybe we should have started it like 20 minutes ago, but we had to wait for Jace over here taking his time.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry for the delay. It's all Jace's fault.
West Coast time, right? Killer. So,
yeah.
But no, man, we're excited. We're excited to have Carlos on. Obviously, you know, if you guys don't already follow Carlos, you got to follow him on Twitter. He's got the most up-to-date, the fastest information. Where we get our information is from Carlos. We ain't even getting
I
it
unfollowed Adam Schefter, all these guys. I was like, Carlos is the only guy I follow. He's got all the news.
Yeah, so we I mean, if you haven't already, if you're on YouTube watching, hop over and follow him. He's on Twitter, X, whatever you guys call it. And if you guys are on his page, we'd love to have you jump over here, YouTube. We got live comments going. You know, Carlos, if you see any in your Twitter chat that you want to bring up, just feel free to bring any of them up. They won't appear for us in YouTube. So if you want them to come over on YouTube, hop over here, subscribe, whatever it is. We'll have Carlos on a lot more times than this. But no, there is a lot of stuff to talk about in the NFL and especially with the Patriots. But it's been a pretty good week to be a Patriots fan, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the one thing I will say, it was definitely an up and down roller coaster on Monday. It started Sunday with the Ronnie Stanley news. Then Monday morning was the Chris Godwin news, or Monday at noon was the Chris Godwin news. And then Milton Williams apparently went to the Panthers, and then he ended up coming to New England. So it's been an up and down journey, but right now I think there's a lot of anger, honestly, throughout the Patriots community, right? As we speak. So I know there's a lot of divide going on. I'll say it like that.
Yeah, there's definitely been some mixed emotions on it. And I mean, overall, I think people are happy with the urgency of spending, but not necessarily maybe with all the positions or lack thereof of some of the attention focused on offense. But I mean, overall, I think so far free agency is off to a pretty good start. It was going to be hard either way to fill all the different needs that they had overall. It's just, I mean, there were so many different holes on this roster that you can't do it all in one free agency. You can't fix your team. You got to do it through the draft as well, and maybe some trades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have any of you guys seen the exact number of what the Patriots have left in cap space? I haven't seen it.
I saw Pat's cap had posted we were at like 95 mil, but there were still like 3 signings left to report. I think Harold Landry.
Harold Landry is going to change it a lot.
Yeah, I think Spillane was on there and one other guy. I'm not positive what we're at. Somewhere probably in the 70s.
Yeah, I would guess like high 70s, low 80s would be like the projection. So plenty of money to still spend. But yeah, I think they still, there's still, I don't want to say moves to be made because obviously, but there's still money to spend, but there's not really anyone to spend it on.
Yeah, that was gonna kind of be my first question to both of you. Do you got something else, Cole?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say my first question. We're gonna get into our favorite signings and least favorite signings on both sides of the ball, but I guess I kind of wanted to talk about, you know, obviously missing out on Cooper Kupp. They threw a bag at Chris Godwin, right? There's still no wide receiver 1 on this team. There's still no offensive, well, I should say no left tackle. They made a bigger hole at offensive line by cutting David Andrews, who's obviously a huge veteran presence. So I guess, Carlos, I'll start with you and asking you is like, you mentioned it, there's just not that much to spend on. A couple of the guys that we would be interested went off the board in the last couple of days. So, I mean, with all this money, no, the Patriots aren't going to spend it all. And yeah, they have to save some for their draft class, but I mean, what position, what player are you looking to at least target in the next maybe couple days, couple weeks? I don't even know where to start.
I mean, definitely interior offensive line still has some options available. The one thing I will say though is that Mike Rivel mentioned it in his opening press conference, or it was one of his press conferences, that he mentioned that the guys that go on day one specifically, but he also mentioned day two of free agency, are like the big money guys, like the guys that you're expecting to make a difference and like play a role on your team. He said that the guys after that, it's no longer about money, that it's about opportunity. So every single signing that you've seen be made post day one has been like a clear, like, yeah, they're coming here to just get an opportunity to, make some more money later on. So someone like Caleb Chason, for example, that's a perfect example of someone that's like, yeah, like we don't have pass rush depth. He's going to be able to get a chance to do that. So when it comes to the guys that are available, interior offensive line, they have a very glaring hole at left, or I would say left guard, just because I don't think you can rely on Layden Robinson. Same thing with center, you could say. Like, it's like one of those things that a lot of people are just like, oh, but we have Ben Brown, we have Cole Strange, we have Layden Robinson. Yeah, and they were all a part of the worst offensive line in the league last year. So some guys, some free agents could see and view it as like, oh, that's an easy job for me to win if I were to sign there. So the guys that come to mind are like Andre James, who was the Raiders center that they released. He worked with Josh McDaniels. Daniel Brunskill from the Titans, he worked with Mike Vrabel. Both of those guys have been starting centers before. They have experience. And then left guard, Mekhi Becton, he played right guard last season, but he's someone that comes to mind. Tevin Jenkins, left guard with the Bears formerly. So he has a lot of starting experience. Like, there's still guys that they could sign and pitch them that like opportunity. Like, you can win this job. Obviously you have to work hard for it, but you can definitely make yourself some more money if you want to sign a 1-year, 2-year deal with us. Tackle, I don't want to get into it too much because I feel like that's a bigger topic. But there's definitely more interior offensive line options that they could spend that money on.
I even think that, like, even talking about tackle just briefly, like Cam Robinson, I think if he had a market that he was expecting, he would have signed by now. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that a lot of people were really down on the end of his season once he got traded to Minnesota. Maybe this is a guy that you can get on a 1-year deal and say, hey, you really believe in yourself here? Come prove it. Like, short-term deal, you can go cash in next year if you're who you think you can be. And having Doug Marrone as an offensive line coach, maybe he can fix some of those issues. But yeah, I agree with what you said. I think it was Carlton Davis during his press conference the other day, basically, or no, he was on Patriots Unfiltered. When he joined live, he said that the longer you wait on day one, the more money goes away. So you want to sign quick. So all those big money guys, the longer they wait, the more money comes off the table for them. So like you said, a lot of those big targets are getting the bags early and then joining for opportunity. But Caleb Chason was a guy I really liked coming out of college. He was a Patriots target. He was in a lot of people's mock drafts. Obviously, he hasn't turned out to be the player that warranted the first round pick that he was selected with. But I do think that's an interesting role that he's going to play here, kind of fill that Josh Uche role, maybe be a little more productive in some aspects than the end of Uche's tenure. I know he had one good year sack production wise, but this D line has some interesting names on it. If all health goes well with Barmore and Keon White, Milton Williams, and having some of these role players step in between the D tackle that we signed to be the run stuffer, and then Caleb Chason to just rush the passer here. So I'm certainly interested in some of the moves we made.
And there's still, like, I would be shocked if the Patriots go into the draft without having signed one, probably two more interior or offensive linemen in general. Like, that's got to be the biggest need. They need a wide receiver one, but I think that they have to address, one or two interior offensive linemen, or tackle, whatever it is, right? Like, there's even guys like Jedrick Wills out there who was a former first-round pick out of Alabama who was in Tennessee last year with Mike Vrabel. Like, there's a lot of these guys who were former first-round picks that haven't gotten the second or that long-term contract. And so now you're sitting here and saying, hey, maybe we should give them, like you mentioned, a deal, a 1 or 2 year prove-it deal, and they could, be a bridge type guy. So, yeah, I would love it if they took Cam Robinson. I mean, I don't know. Right now, PFF was projecting him to get 3 years, $18.75 million a year. So about $56 million. No chance he's getting that right now, in my opinion. So, if that's, a chance they could take it, they could, get him. Obviously, that would be huge because I don't even know if they have a left tackle on roster right now. I mean, Verdarian Lowe, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Don't count out Kaden Wallace either. He lost his right tackle job, so he
did
make the switch. But
yeah, and I would say that I am a big believer that what is it? Or Doug Marrone would definitely be able to develop him a little bit more than last year, but he's just always been a right tackle, so I guess that's my concern. But if they really do have 70-80 million, I would hope that they could go spend 30-40 million more, get that down to 50 million. They're not going to spend all of it. Like even expecting them to have spent 120 million, even if they would have signed Chris Godwin to the massive contract they offered him, they probably still wouldn't really have came super close. So it'll be interesting to see who they target. Receivers are thin, right? Stephon Diggs or whoever else is out there as a 1-year guy. You could add him, but probably not. Carlos is shaking his head. He doesn't want to bring
not Ben and Diggs.
The only thing, if you want to pull up Gabe Harless's two comments, he said we're pivoting from Cooper Kupp, and he said welcome Stephon Diggs. I have a gripe to pick with that, just because I think the fans are pivoting from Cooper Kupp. I don't think the Patriots are pivoting from Cooper Kupp. I think it was the fans that just got this fantasy that like this is the only receiver left that we can sign or we should sign, and now that he's not coming. Now the fans are pivoting and saying like, okay, who's next? I don't think the Patriots are looking at it like that. If the Patriots were looking at it like that who they pivoted from? Chris Godwin.
That's like a perfect they offered example. 28, 30 million.
That's someone that they offered the most money out of anyone else. And then they had to pivot from him. Stephon Diggs, the Boston Herald reporter, Andrew Callahan, Doug Kyed, they both reported it that the Patriots are not in on Cooper Kupp or sorry, Stephon Diggs or an Amari Cooper. So I've never even looked at those two names just because, one, I don't really want them. But on top of that, I just don't think that, like, I don't know. It's just one of those situations that I just trust those two reporters a lot, that they're getting that information from people within the building. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anywhere to pivot to after for fans to really, root for a wide receiver. I did also want to point out, I don't know if you guys could see Andrew De Silva's comment from my Twitter. He's how he mentioned Dylan Radins. I like that idea. That's definitely someone that he worked with very well. There's familiarity there, and just bring him in as a backup, not necessarily to start. So once again, like wrapping it all back around, there's definitely guys they could still spend money on. Mike Vrabel said it himself. He said it early on. He said, we're not going to spend $120 million in free agency. Like, that's unrealistic. So they're going to bring it down. But I'll ask you guys this, how low do you think the cap space is going to get by the end of the offseason? What's like the final number you think they end at, including the draft class?
So say they're at what right now, 75, 80? What would the starting number be?
It's
let's say we're at 75 right now. I'd say 60 after draft class. I don't know. Like,
wow.
I really don't. I mean, 55. I don't think they're gonna be. There's just not that many big, like, there's still guys out there, but there's not that many big name guys who are going to be spending more than $10 million on them unless they grab a Cam Robinson. Like, at the receiver position, if they're not interested in Cooper or Stephon Diggs, the next best available on PFF is Keenan Allen, and he's 33. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think they still have a lot of money left in the tank that they're going to spend? Last year they stayed at like 50 mil, right?
I think last year they were around like 35. Maybe.
Did they really get that low? Okay.
I think so. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money to spend last offseason. Like, a lot of people made it seem like they did, but they honestly didn't have that much just because of all the
re-signed a bunch.
Yeah. So they ended off the season like they did have a good amount left, and they carried it over to this year. But yeah, if I had to guess, I would put it at like 40, around there. Like most NFL teams, like if you ever look at the cap space in the middle of the season, like the top team in the NFL always have somewhere around like 40, anywhere between like 30 and 40. That's like pretty common to see. And then you have teams like the Saints that are negative 40. Yeah. So that's how I always remember it like that. Like that's usually like the the gap in between it. But yeah, I mean, don't leave out Brandon Cooks. I think that's another name that a lot of people have been throwing out there just because he's 31. He has familiarity with the Patriots and like the organization. So yeah, I think if they make a bigger signing, whether it's like a left tackle, starting left guard, or projected starting left guard, it's gonna be somewhere around like a $10 million deal. Yeah. Even though it's not like fully guaranteed 10 million, I think it's gonna be somewhere around like, you could see something like 2 years, 20 million for Tevin Jenkins. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that.
Jace, is there anybody that stands out to you as far as where you think that money could go?
I mean, the biggest place the money would go, and I don't think it's going to happen, is if they were to make a trade like Chris Olave or Brandon Ayuk, which neither of them seem likely. Like, I don't think they're going to go out and make a trade.
The options dwindle further and further every day. And we haven't mentioned this yet, but T. Higgins is reportedly close to signing his extension with, I mean, that organization is such a crap show. Like, I just don't know how you're like, oh, our defense was atrocious last year. Let's get rid of everybody and re-sign our 2 receivers. Like, what?
Luanavuma was a scapegoat. That's what happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I mean, I agree with you guys. Like, if they could go out and get a Cam Robinson for what, 12? Let's even say 12 million because he's a left tackle. Sign him to a 12 million deal. Tevin Jenkins right now is projected to get 13. Even if you give him a 10 million, that's only what, 22 million right there. You know, give or take, depending on the contract structure, and then. Yeah, maybe you go make another small signing. But even if you take those 2 guys who are the top left tackle and interior offensive line left on the market, that's looking like you're at 50. So I agree. I was going to say lower than, I don't think they get anywhere lower than $30 million. Like, that's what they'll end up having. They'll probably have way more than that. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of guys out there, but I mean, Mekhi Becton's projected to get a $10 million. So say you gave him a 2-year, $20 million deal. That's $10 million a year too. It's like, I agree with you guys. I think they're probably going to make 2, possibly 3 more signings that might be around 10 million, but everything else is going to be like K-Law Chasen and stuff where it's going to be right around 5-6 million, not very long term contracts. And so it'll be interesting to see, but I would like to see them at least spend 25 million more on 2, I don't even want to say big name players, 2 players that are at a premium position of need for the Patriots, like offensive line, potentially receiver, but the receiver market's way less intriguing to me than the offensive line one is.
I will say this. I know I just talked to you guys about it before, so you guys none of the people watching are going to know what I'm talking about, but you guys are going to understand. I've spoken to some people. Kicker is someone that they're talking to some kickers right now. I'll put that out there, that they're talking to kickers right now because they wanted to wait for the first week of free agency to go by just to see the options left and how much money they're going to have to spend. So that might be a position that it's going to be like another, like, I mean, it's obviously nothing crazy, but
couple mil.
A position of need at the end of the day. That it's going to be like a $4 million, $5 million contract possibly to a kicker. So don't be surprised if we get any news about a kicker signing.
We need
Ryland's coming home.
Yeah. The savior. We need a breaking news horn for Carlos when he's on here. So the little nuggets he drops every once in a while.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you guys are probably right. Maybe 55 mil is a little pessimistic. I don't know. They really do need to address it more because, like you mentioned, with David Andrews being cut, there could be 3 pretty big holes on the offensive line right now. Yeah. And if you really want to build through the trenches, unless you want to do it all in the draft, which Vrabel specifically said, we want to address all our needs in free agency and then take best player available in the draft. So if that's true, then they got to spend another 30 million just to address a few of those holes. So I think that is hopefully what they do, because I would like to have a competent offensive line going into the draft, and then we can just take the best guys available there and deal with it that way. I just think that's the best way to go. But yeah, outside of that, though, there's not a ton of different guys on the market. And with T. Higgins nearing an extension, with Cooper Kupp off the board, I don't think Ayuk is reasonable just because the Niners let so many guys go. I don't think that they're going to trade Ayuk as well. It's like they got rid of a bunch of money. I just think they're probably going to want to keep Ayuk there, Kittle and that crew. Maybe they'll let Brock Purdy walk and have Mac Jones be the QB1. So that could change some things. But
he's under contract longer than Brock Purdy.
That's true. That's true. Not everybody's talking about that.
I guess, I mean, I would like to see them sign, like I said, 2 offensive linemen, Probably one tackle, one interior offensive lineman. I would love to see that. It's just so hard because of like we were interested in Javon Holland, right? Well, sorry, we were. I don't know if the Patriots were, just because he's like a free safety, right? So if there's a safety out there, but well, I mean, Justin Simmons is 31 years old. I don't think you're going to give him. And maybe they would. I guess I'm not. I mean, but that would most likely mean that you're going to move on from one of the three other guys. So maybe a true free safety and. I mean, yeah, I don't know if there's a receiver out there I'd give more than $7 or $8 million to. So, but gosh, this meme is great. The Patriots fan base in faction with this guy. Was it Gabe Pats that started it? Is that who it was? Was Gabe? Because I've seen Gabe post a lot about.
I have as well. I don't know where it started. I'm not sure, but I have seen it everywhere.
I think it's a Gabe Pats thing. So we'll thank Gabe. But I mean, the safety market's a little bit older. Harrison Smith has been great, but I don't see them spinning. Did he sign?
He went back to the Vikings.
Oh, he did? PFF hasn't updated it, so I don't follow the Vikings. Sorry.
Who is it? Say it again.
Harrison Smith.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just looking at the available safeties right now and stuff and looking at the ones that were unsigned. They haven't.
Hey, we just signed a safety.
Yeah. Marcus Epps, I mean, he could play free safety. He's not bad. He's honestly not that bad. He's just coming off a torn ACL. So he's like one of those guys that falls into that category of like he has an opportunity here and he signed for that reason in particular.
1 year, right? 1 year, $4 million.
Yeah. What about Wes Schweitzer? You guys don't like Wes Schweitzer?
Very long-term solution at center or guard there. We'll take that.
31 years old, 1 year deal.
So I mean, there's a couple positions
option there. You know, it's never bad to add some depth, but hopefully that's not our starting guard day one.
Yeah, I guess I could see it happening, but if that was the case, it would probably be just as bad as it was last year. But I mean, addressing the left side of the offensive line, obviously the center, unless they just have that much. I guess that's another topic to talk about. Like, do you think they have that much faith in what? It's Ben Brown, Jake Andrews, and then potentially Cole Strange. Like, do we have that much confidence in one of those three to be the next center?
Honestly, I didn't think Ben Brown was that bad. And maybe it was just because I had so low expectations coming in. But when he came in and learned the playbook within 2 days and came out and played, I thought he was okay. Do I want him to start for us this year? No. But like in comparison to like some of the other guys there, Cole Strange didn't look great out there either. His limited time he saw, maybe with Doug Marrone a whole offseason is changes some things there, and maybe they believe in him. I don't love any of the options here to be like, oh, let's have this guy starting center for Drake May week 1. I just don't love it. But Ben Brown was better than I expected coming in when we signed him.
Yeah, I would say Cole Strange is.
I was gonna say that would be my ideal.
I think he's the favorite. Yeah.
I did like Jake Andrews though. I know he never got like an opportunity at center, but when he played, I think it was left guard. He got some reps and live game reps at left guard. I know he didn't do great, but they literally drafted him. Bill Belichick drafted him to be the heir to David Andrews, and I don't know if he just drafted him because he thought he was good. He maybe didn't think people would notice the difference that it was just Andrews still snapping the ball. But
swap out the number.
Yeah, like I really think that he deserves a shot. He's someone that he's played center for a long time, so he probably has the most experience at center. I mean, Ben Brown probably does actually. I'll take that back, but it's definitely going to be a weird competition. I mentioned the two names earlier too, like Andre James and Daniel Brunskill. I'd actually be surprised if they didn't bring at least one of them in, but and they know more than me. You know what I mean? Maybe they know stuff that goes on behind the scenes with them.
And I talked to Cole about this. Like, I get the David Andrews cut. Like, I really do. It sucks, right? I would have liked to have him on just to mentor someone, like
coaching staff.
Yeah, and okay, maybe he does come on, and that's not saying like, hey, I don't trust Doug Marrone, but it's like, dude, that dude's an 8-year locker room staple, Patriot, like
captain.
tough as nails, captain. if it is Cole Strange, I would have loved to have him just be there at least for camp and then, send him out the right way. And I'm not saying they did it wrong. I understand it 100%, but I would have loved him just for his leadership and experience purposes to still be on this roster until they found that center.
Well, that's apparently what was going on behind the scenes last year. Was David Andrews spent a lot of time with Cole Strange because they were both hurt. They're just trying to teach him the position and get him ready to play center. So he did spend some time there. I don't know. I think they might have been doing him a solid here instead of having him go through all the offseason training, get ready for camp, get in shape, and then realize, oh, I'm not the same, and then cut him. I think just letting him go now and let him make a decision if he wants to try to keep going somewhere else or if he just wants to retire. But we just saw a decline in play from him, and the injuries just were piling up. He just wasn't the same player, even when he was on the field, that he has been in years past. So yes, he's a great leader, obviously a great Patriot, and will be remembered forever here. But just as far as being the center of your offensive line and being the guy snapping the ball every week, he just wasn't the same level that he was at when he was captain, one of the better centers in the NFL year after year. He just wasn't the same.
Yeah. And I think Jace, you mentioned it earlier about or one of you mentioned it, just like the confidence that they might have in the guys in-house. I don't think they have a lot of confidence in them, to be honest, because there's no reason that you're involved in your discussions centers with the best center on the free agent market and you release your starting center shortly after. Like, that
was a big tell. That was a big tell of what was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my only worry.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I think the whole line, other than Owenu, like they said, I mean, there was a report that came out a week ago. So before free agency, that said Michael Owenu is pretty much the only offensive lineman that they're looking to keep. Like the only starter from last year that they're hoping to have a spot. And I mean, Layden Robinson, I still think can do some good things. Sidney Sal was decent at points in his rookie season. They just have not been good. They haven't shown that they can consistently be starters. And so maybe, I'm not saying that Dante Scarnecchia, is going to come out of the, trees in Foxborough and teach him. But
so much easier.
It would. But Doug Marrone is an O-line whisperer. So maybe, just maybe, we can see some of that Dante Scarnecchia magic we saw from the, early 2000s Patriots, late 2000s Patriots with all these great interior or, great offensive linemen in general. Maybe, we have another one in-house that's been kind of known as an offensive line whisperer. So hopefully we see a little bit more production out of some of those guys. And me and Cole had this talk this morning, and that's kind of my hope as a whole. You finally, in my opinion, have an NFL coaching staff from your head coach to your offensive coordinator to your defensive coordinator that know what the hell they're doing and have confidence in themselves, that hopefully they can instill confidence in the players and start developing some of these guys, because the drafting has been putrid. Yes, I'm not going to disagree with that. But the development, in my opinion, has been just as bad. It has been horrible the last 3 years. Matt Patricia wasn't going to develop a soul on offense when he was the OC. He didn't even know what he was doing out there. Alex Van Pelt, as good as a quarterback guy he was, had not been a play caller before. He wasn't going to develop the receivers. Same thing with the receivers coach last year, Tyler Hughes. He had been a defensive analyst or whatever the whole time in his career in New England. And so it's I feel like they finally at least have the pieces in place to start developing some of these guys and hope that they can just get more production and a little bit more, out of these guys that they have taken chances on or and drafted. And it doesn't look as bad, but that's just me being a little optimistic, in a certain way.
Yeah, Jason and I have been going back and forth today a little bit. We've had some disagreements on a couple
Cole says we have the worst receiving core, and that would be going down to 12U football too, in the country.
Yeah, and Jay says N'Keal Harry is our savior, and he's the best receiver to come out of the draft. You compared AJ Brown and Tyquan Thornton today, so I don't want to hear anything else from you the rest of the podcast.
I never once compared him. Cole is the master of twisting words.
I'm gonna pull up the receipts. You and Carlos talk. I'm gonna pull this up real quick.
All I said, you said that AJ Brown like tested like a freak. And I said, you know who else did? Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton ran, a 4.28 40.
Does that sound like he's comparing him to Tyquan Thornton? Just sounds like it to me, Carlos. I don't know.
Doesn't. I was just saying, if we took every dude that looked good and ran fast, you'd go find the local bodybuilders at Vasa Fitness or whatever, and Planet Fitness, 24-hour fitness, they'd all be in the NFL. So no, it was a funny conversation.
Yeah, it was.
Do you have anything else? I mean, Carlos, obviously not inside scoops, but any kind of impressions or anything that you think the Patriots might pull off here in the next, week or so, or who they might be targeting positions with all the cap space they potentially do still have?
Mm-hmm. I'm starting to wonder if they're going to get desperate at offensive line, just because they have struck out on so many offensive linemen, and it's just gone to the point that, okay, it's getting so thin that, yes, you might be looking for guys that, I keep saying it over and over again, because this was Mike Vrabel's words. Like, I'm not just saying it just to say it. He said it, like, the guys that they sign for less money and the second phase of free agency are just guys that are looking for opportunities. So if you take it with that mindset, it's like, I wonder if they shift out of that mindset. That's essentially what I'm trying to, that's just what I'm wondering, if they're going to do that, just because, like, yes, you think someone like Mekhi Becton, someone like Tevin Jenkins, maybe they might be looking for an opportunity, but you can't really, like, negotiate in a way of, like, oh, we're doing you this favor, when in reality they would also be doing you a favor, because if it works out, then that's your starting left guard, that's your starting center, like starting left tackle. So they're I feel like they're going to have to start paying more than what they're willing to pay for guys that have made it to this point of free agency. And I just think it's kind of surprising me how many defensive players they're bringing in, because yes, I understand that the offensive side of free agency has been thin, but, like, you just, like, today, like, I literally took a nap, I wake up and Marcus Epps is signed. Like, yeah. It's just like, some offensive linemen do need to be signed. That's, like, the one position that I keep expecting them to make an addition, and then Wes Schweitzer comes to fruition.
You asked for it. Here he is.
I know. I hope that's not the only addition. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. And Jason and I were talking about this, like, kind of leading up in our free agency previews, was just like, I always thought that this would be a defensive heavy free agency for them. Doesn't mean I thought they were going to not address offense almost at all, because they really haven't outside of Moses. So yeah, I was surprised. I think they did their best. I mean, offering Chris Godwin $30 million a year, I think, is a fair effort. It seems like it was kind of Chris Godwin or bust for them, basically. And he really was the only guy on the market that was worth that, but it doesn't seem like they were very interested in Cooper Kupp. Doesn't seem like they've been very interested in almost anybody else. Like, the top options we just mentioned were Diggs and Amari Cooper. They weren't interested in it at all. So I don't know. There's just not a whole lot of options on offense outside of some of these guys you're mentioning at guard. I do think that'd be a good snag. And if you can get a tackle for the right price, Cam Robinson, if you can get him, I know they were talking about maybe an incentive heavy deal to kind of motivate him, because they're worried about that a little bit, which is not something you want to see when you're building the culture, is worrying about a guy not being motivated. It's like, okay, we bringing Trent Brown back in here, or what's going on? So I just think we need to find somebody who can be serviceable at left tackle for 1 year and be able to focus on the draft, to let the draft come to us and see where it goes from there.
Well, and this was a better defensive free agency class, right? Like, most of the guys that even I was interested in was
T. Higgins, Trey Smith off the board. So
yeah, and then Ronnie Stanley right off the board, and they made a hell of a run for Chris Godwin, and it didn't work out. And so it's like, yeah, I agree with you. The defense was probably the one that was like, hey, we're gonna address this, and then we're gonna draft in the offensive realm. Hopefully they actually do that, and we'll see that coming up and stuff. But do you guys want to get into? I mean, we did just talk a lot about the guys we signed. Do you want to talk about maybe your favorite or least favorite signing, or should we get into the mock draft stuff, since so many people are asking about drafts?
Well, it's not really the draft; it's just all Huzzy. Everybody is wanting some Huzz talk, I guess. But no, I do think we should. I mean, we can make it quick, but just kind of touch on a signing you really liked, and maybe one that you didn't as much. Carlos, what do you think your favorite signing so far?
I'll pick two, just in terms of, like, culture and actual positional, like, play. Culture, Morgan Moses, 10 out of 10. Like that is like my favorite signing in terms of just like a leader in the locker room.
He's awesome.
Skill guy. I mean, I'm gonna go with I won't go with the obvious choice. I'll go with another like culture guy. I won't pick like a skill one. The other culture one is Mac Hollins. I really think that he's gonna be a really good guy for the locker room. If you listen to his press conference today, that sounds like he doesn't wear shoes. Yes, I know like people are gonna point it out, but
he doesn't.
I think no, he refuses to wear shoes, and I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "What the hell is going on here?" But he's definitely someone that he sounds, obviously words are different than actions, but like he sounds like the perfect leader for that locker room. And he was saying how he's like he pushes guys to the limit, and that he's learned to not overly do it. But someone like Javon Baker, someone like Jalen Polk might need that. So those are definitely the two that stand out to me.
And the other thing about Mac Hollins, I'm trying to pull up his exact stats, but this is a dude that plays gunner on special teams.
Yeah.
He's returned kickoffs. Like, he's a bigger body receiver, which I didn't think the Patriots had. And I'm not saying he's the answer, but he's also going to add tons of special teams value. He took 134 total reps on kickoff. He's stayed in the league on so many teams, Eagles, Dolphins, Raiders, Falcons, Bills, because he had special teams value. And that's what a lot of people overlook too, right? It's like, oh, he's not a good receiver, but okay, yeah, it's not a flashy signing, but this is a guy that's had experience with McDaniels. He's going to provide special teams value, which is huge because 2 years ago, the Patriots special teams was horrible. It was god awful. And now it was better. Well, it was really good last year under it's Springer, right? Yeah, yep. Springer. And so, keeping that trend going, but I agree with you with the Morgan Moses one. That one for me, I'm not going to say that it was my favorite one, but it makes sense because he's a veteran. You just lost, like I just talked about with David Andrews, you just lost your veteran leader on the offensive line. Well, this is another guy who's just super experienced. He's tough as nails. He's played almost 10,000 snaps in the NFL. Like I do like that one a lot, probably because it's at the biggest position of need, in my opinion. Well, it was. And at least you're addressing that. But man, the right side with Michael Winu and Morgan Moses is looking really good. Like that's a good right side. Hopefully they can address the left side now.
Yeah. I not a question in my mind from a culture standpoint. Morgan Moses blows everybody out of the water. Like, he had me hooked a minute into his press conference, and then he went on Patriots Unfiltered and he said, they asked him if he was ready for the leadership role, and he said, my great grandfather once part of the Red Sea, so I'm built for this. And I was like, that's so tough. I was like, that's awesome. So he just seems like an awesome guy. Like, everything he says, he's so articulate with his words in a way that I just feels like fires people up. I just feel like he's really good with that. And he seems genuinely excited to be here and play next to Big Mike and have Drake May behind him. So I'm really excited about that, which is funny because he's 33 years old, something like that. And you just signed him to like a 3-year deal. And that's the guy you're most excited about. But I'm pumped about it. He got me fired up just talking in the interview. So Carlton Davis, I also thought was really exciting. Just thinking about what him and Christian Gonzalez can do next to each other is really intriguing as a cornerback duo. And then if you end up drafting somebody, which we will get to shortly, then that would be absolutely incredible. Might be the best
Elijah
trio
Huzzie?
Ever assembled.
Yes. We drafted Elijah Huzzie.
You read my mind. Yep. There's the Huzz talk for you guys.
There you go, guys. We got it in there. So, no, I obviously liked him too. I'll go with another one. I mean, obviously the Milton Williams, and I do like how they have addressed a lot of we knew Vrabel, he's a tough-nosed dude. Like, he wanted to address the trenches on both sides of the ball. He goes out, obviously spends a bag on Milton Williams, highest paid player in Patriots history. Morgan Moses, great culture fit, like you said, on that offensive line. Harold Landry's a guy that he's had connections with. The other one that I kind of wanted to bring up is Robert. Is it Spillane?
I think.
Spillane. Robert Spillane.
Yeah.
Spillane.
Spillane.
There you go. Spillane. Obviously,
Jace has a really hard time with names. Doug Maroney, Doug Monroe.
Hey, sometimes it's hard, man. Using words is hard.
It is.
And over here in Utah, everyone spells their name with like Y's, and so everything's pronounced weirdly, and you just got weird things. But I think that he's a tone setter on defense. Also, they added a couple of those, but He's physical. We did not stop the run at a high level last year. He's a dude that's going to fly downhill, made his mark on special teams early in his career, hasn't played much because he's been so valuable at linebacker, but he's going to be another tone setter, Mike Vrabel type guy that's going to change the culture, change the type of defense that the Patriots are wanting to switch to and wanting, to be known for. Hey, they might not be the most talented team on the field, but I'd be willing to bet most games they're going to be one of the most physical and hard-nosed teams with, how Mike Vrabel coaches and the guys he's bringing on this roster.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what you get when you bring in Mike Vrabel. That's what you expect every week.
Was it Morgan Moses that said Mike Vrabel kind of sells it himself, right?
I think it was Spillane, wasn't it?
It was Morgan Moses.
It was Moses.
Yeah. He said when you have Mike Vrabel, you don't need a pitch. That's what he said.
Okay. So you're already kind of seeing that, right? And these tough-nosed guys that, that's kind of their play style are already like, okay, I want to go play for a coach like Mike Vrabel, which is what we were hoping for. Him and Drake May obviously being a little more attractive than Gerard Mayo and Jacoby Brissett going into last year.
Yeah. Carlos, was there any signings you weren't a huge fan of, or if you kind of liked them all, then what was kind of one of your lower points as far as maybe just the value of the deal or the player in general to fit?
No, I mean, I'm pretty optimistic in general. I've always been like that, just with any Patriots move, but not to keep picking on the guy, but the Wes Schweitzer one bothers me for some reason. I think it's because he's a very low Madden rating, and I've seen him
was he a 64 overall?
Yeah, something like that. So I think that's why I can't get him out of my mind.
Yeah.
That's funny. For me, I don't even want to say I didn't like it, but I think they need to get younger and a little bit more well equipped for the future at tight end. I like Austin Hooper. I think he developed some chemistry with Drake May. But just one that it's a 1-year deal, right? So I'm not saying that it's bad, but for me, it's like, hey, I kind of still hope whether it's Jaheim Bell or whether it's a tight end they draft that there's a younger guy, or I mean, again, I talked about trades. I would love for them to trade for Michael Mayer, right? He was drafted by Josh McDaniels, and I would love it if they could strike a deal for him as kind of their long-term guy good in the run and in the pass, and was kind of a big-time prospect, not as big as Brock Bowers or Kyle Pitts coming out, but still was one of the top
well-regarded.
Well-regarded. And so I would like for them to add a guy like that or take one in a deep tight end class. But that was just one for me, a little bit older guy, but it's not going to be a bad deal by any means. He's obviously a veteran in the NFL. He knows the system. It's not like I'm knocking the deal. That was just one I kind of wanted to comment on.
Yeah. Mine would have to be Josh Dobbs. He pretends he's an astronaut. He's never been to space once in his life. So
it's because he's playing football.
Yeah, the real astronaut is Joe Milton, because he can throw that ball all the way to space. So I don't want to hear
the astronaut in the rocket in the QB room.
That's crazy. Funny. Yeah. For now,
yeah.
We'll see. Yeah,
until he starts for the Giants week 1 and they draft Abdul Carter.
Ooh, that would be interesting. So, anything else on any free agents we signed before we get into some mock drafts?
I think straight sights in the sky, their latest comment, could segue us perfectly into the next thing that you want to talk about. I think one of us has a infatuation with him.
That is true.
Oh,
might be the guy in the middle of the screen. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let me show you guys my draft real quick. How we're going to do this is we are going to obviously be pulling up mock drafts. We each did 1 3-round mock draft. We're going to react to it and let you guys comment on it. So the one that I did, Elijah Huzzie at pick 4.
Okay. All right. Okay.
There you guys go. Screenshot it right now, Gabe, if you're still in here. Elijah Huzzie pick 4. I don't know why PFF gave it an F.
Yeah.
That is crap. But this is the guy the Patriots need.
That's a bunch of baloney.
I don't know, man. I need the comment section going wild.
Yeah, we took one Tar Heel last year at 3, and that worked out well. Take Huzzie at 4.
Why not take one at 4?
Yeah.
There you go. Look at Gabe.
I think a real Huzzie fan, though, would have taken him with every single pick in the draft.
It was impossible. PFF wouldn't let me. So this is why we do it. That's fireable, Jace.
Congrats.
Okay.
Congrats.
I'll show you guys my that's funny. I'll show you guys my real one. This is a very optimistic draft, I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about it once we get to Carlos's, because Carlos did something that I really like to do. I don't know if anyone's going to want to trade up for the 4th overall pick unless a quarterback falls. And there's just like I traded up with the Jets here. And again, the return is I didn't want to just be like, oh, we're, get this crazy unrealistic return. So the return is, subject to change. It would at least start at a first and a second, and most likely a future first for me, but the future first didn't come into play because we weren't doing the draft. But anyways, if they want to trade up, if the Saints want to trade up, I did that. And in my opinion, he's probably the third best pass catching option behind the guy that Carlos took, and then obviously Travis Hunter. But Tyler Warren is such a good prospect. If you can get him in, I just talked about the tight end room. If you can get him in, he's polished. He's good in the run. He's obviously great in the pass. He's, one of those prospects that, in my opinion, are a can't miss guy. He's a pretty safe take there. So I would love to take that. And then, I traded back up in the first. No need to, take 2 in the second. Let's get back up. I took the left tackle of need, Josh Connerly. He's a guy that has the length. He has 34 plus inch arms. He was good at the Senior Bowl minus the 1 rep when he got absolutely bull rushed by Mike Green, but he has the movement skills. He's super quick, light feet. Really like what he does on the outside. And then one of my favorite receivers, no need to, take T. Higgins when you can just get Jaden Higgins. This dude for 6'4", his feet, his footwork, he catches the ball. Body control, the length that he adds, it's the X receiver that the Patriots have needed for so long. And I really do believe that he could come in and have like a Michael Pittman Jr. impact. He could be as good as T. Higgins. Like I see it. His movement is so fluid, so good. And then Kevin Winston Jr. is another guy that was really good in 2023, had a down year last year. Obviously, he suffered an injury, but that's the free safety type guy. And that's why I wanted to take it there. So heavy offense in the first round, the first 3 rounds with my first 3 picks, obviously 2 in the first and then 1 in the second, and then addressing a position of need at the safety position, in my opinion, the true free safety. So again, I think this is a very optimistic draft. I don't think anyone's going to want to trade up to pick 4, but it would be best case scenario if Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are off the board, try to trade down, maybe get a little bit more value. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, Jace, I'm sorry. I might just crap all over your mock draft.
Okay.
But personally, I've never been a big fan of Tyler Warren for the Patriots. I think he's a great prospect, but just because they have Hunter Henry, I know he's older. I know he's not as dynamic as Tyler Warren, but he has such a great chemistry with Drake May and someone that consistent. He had a great chemistry with Mac Jones too. Like, he's just someone that I feel like that's more of like a luxury pick. You know what I mean? Like they have a tight end in place already, and I'd rather address a different position of need in a way, like as a wide receiver or a tackle early on, rather than just take a tight end. That's my only issue with him. Like I said, I like him as a prospect. That's just like the one issue I have with people that whenever they mock him early on to the Patriots, just because I'm not saying don't draft Tyler Warren because you have Austin Hooper as well. Like I would never say that.
That'd be a wild take.
It's just like in a way though, it's just like, yeah, there's already 3 guys in that tight end room. And I feel like it's just one of those positions that you don't really need as like a championship builder, like right away. Like that's something that you could kind of address later on. Josh Connerly, when I don't want to like, hey, look, I don't know the guy, okay, but when I spoke to him at the Senior Bowl, that was one of those times that I was just like, this guy just talked out of his ass for like 2 minutes, because like I don't even know what, like a lot of the questions I asked him, I feel like he just didn't have an answer to them, and that kind of threw me off because there was a lot of guys, for example, Jaden Higgins, who I also spoke to, he was like on top of everything. He was very well spoken, like he was on like very mature. And I'm not saying Josh Connerly's not mature. Like I said, I don't know the guy, but just the difference in like speaking to the 2 people, my first thought when I spoke to them, I was like, if they just spoke to me like this, I wonder how Mike Vrabel and them are going to think about them when they speak to them in their interviews. Like, is this the type of culture guy that we'd want in the building? Like if I was Mike Vrabel, and like I said, this is not even, I'm not judging the person, but if I had to pick between Josh Connerly and Jaden Higgins, like personality wise, I would pick Jaden Higgins. So that's why it's kind of questionable whenever I think of Josh Connerly being the Patriots pick. I think he's a younger prospect too. I think he's like 21. I may be wrong. I'm pretty sure he's younger though. And that just leaves the question, like, do you just draft him just because you do like him as a tackle, or do you prefer someone that's a little bit more mature, or just like You know what I mean? I feel like I'm just rambling on right now, but that's like the one gripe I have with Josh Connerly. And it's not even like, I'm not saying I hate the guy. I'm just saying like maybe for the Patriots right now, I don't think he would be a good pick if you're just going to go based off of like a culture guy, someone that's going to fit the culture.
Yeah, he is 21.
Yeah.
So this is an F from you then Carlos, right?
See, but
I'm a huge Jaden Higgins fan. I love Jaden Higgins.
I mean, and I'll defend the Tyler Warren pick. I agree with you. I do think it's a bit of a luxury pick, but do we really think that Hunter Henry going into his 31-year-old season and he has a option to be out of his contract for $2.5 million next year is the future? Like, if you miss out on Travis Hunter and you have the ability to trade down, we're going to talk about Tetairoa McMillan. I love that option. I didn't want to double down on that. Tyler Warren's the third best pass catcher in this class, and he would be able to develop with Drake May for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. He's a great pass catcher. Tight ends in Josh McDaniel's systems are the bread and butter other than the slot receiver. And so for me, it's an option that I actually like. I agree with you. It's probably a little bit of a luxury pick, especially for the Patriots who have so many holes. But the Patriots need playmakers on offense and they need pass catchers. And in my opinion, like I mentioned, he's the third best one. So I wouldn't, be like totally against taking him. I would be totally fine with, hey, we're going to have you and Hunter Henry there, obviously Austin Hooper there, but both of those guys could be gone next year. And this is Tyler Warren's room to take over. I mean, he's no Brock Bowers prospect. I'm not saying that, but he's a really good pass catching option here. And then for me, what I like about Josh Connerly is he is young. Like, I think that he is young. He's underdeveloped. He has so many movement skills. He's played a lot of college football at Oregon, and it's been high level football. I mean, I've never talked to the guy like you did and stuff. So yeah, the vibe could be off, but no, the rawness, but the movement skills and the length obviously is something that not a lot of offensive tackles in this class have. So we'll have to see how that one goes. But this was just an option. I mean, I didn't want to I wanted us to be able to talk about 3 different mocks here. And so that's, kind of my, trade down, trade up. Again, it's very optimistic to expect a trade down and a trade back up.
I do want to say overall, I like the structure of this mock though. Like, I feel like you're addressing some positions in need. I do still think tight end is a position in need personally, and you'll see that in my mock as well. I don't mind this structure. If you're getting a tackle somewhere at the back end of the first round, whether it's Ariante Ursary, Josh Connerly, like one of those guys, and then you still get a Jaden Higgins. I'm a big fan of him, and you're getting a tight end with a bunch of talent. I'm a fan of it. So I'm a little bit higher on this draft in general. Carlos, do you have much of a opinion on Loveland versus Warren? I know a lot of people are pretty high on Loveland, and some people actually think it's just a pick your style, and that's the guy I'm going to take in this draft. Would you prefer one over the other, one style versus the other?
Yeah, I mean, I view it the same way, like how you said that there's like, it's a pick your style type of thing. If I had to pick though, I would say Tyler Warren just because he could do more.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people like not comparing the two, but just saying like the play styles is Colston Loveland is like a Travis Kelce. Tyler Warren's more so like of a Rob Gronkowski. Yeah. I know people love to take that comparison with Tyler Warren about like Gronk. He's not Gronk. I don't think anyone's gonna ever be Gronk. But I would rather have someone in Gronk's mold rather than a Travis Kelce mold personally.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm gonna say this right now. I would rather have the Patriots trade for Michael Mayer than do this with Tyler Warren. Like, because they probably could get Mayer for like a 4th, maybe. I don't know if I'd give up a 3rd for him, but maybe they would. So I would be all on board there. And then, like you said, maybe more of an immediate position of need could be addressed here, like an Armand Membu or someone that the Patriots could look to draft. So it like I said, it's not my favorite. I totally get your problems with it, but I'm a little bit more kind of like Cole said, a little bit more on the side of, hey, we just need playmakers and pass catchers. And if Tetairoa McMillan and Travis Hunter off the board, the next best one, in my opinion, is Tyler Warren. So let's move on. Let's go to Carlos. Let's go to your mock draft. We'll let you explain it.
That's right. Save the best for last.
Yeah. Well, it was the worst. That's why I think I might just.
You know, it's funny. I'm actually doing one right now as we speak.
Wow. You're doing another one. Do you want to switch?
Honestly, maybe.
Really? So should we go to Cole's?
Let's go to Cole's.
I do like your picks.
Okay, let's talk about. Maybe we could talk about both if we have time.
Okay,
we could talk.
Yeah,
about
we'll just talk. Okay, all right, that's fine.
I hate it.
All right. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. That's gonna do it for us here.
No, anything with Travis Hunter, I'm gonna just go to bat for. But go ahead.
I'll just kind of touch in this scenario. Obviously, Travis Hunter was on the board, so 2 QBs, and Carter went top 3. I'm taking Travis Hunter here, and I'm playing him full time at receiver. Maybe you can have him sprinkle in a couple reps at cornerback. I know some people talked about third down and stuff like that. Carlos and I talked about that beforehand. I think he has a ton of untapped potential at receiver. I just think if the reports are true about him basically being in cornerback meetings only and just hopping in the offensive huddle, being told what route to run and just going out there and doing it. If you get this guy in a wide receiver room with a coach who knows what he's doing, which we may or may not have, that's no guarantee. But if he gets a good receivers coach to teach him, polish his technique, get him to learn the playbook, build chemistry with Drake May, all that different stuff. He's such a good athlete. His catch radius is great. He's got solid size as far as height, and he put on a little bit of weight, which is good. He needs it for the combine. I think he was at like 185, something like that. So I think he's got a ton of talent to be a true stud receiver for us on offense. I think that type of receiver scares me less than some of the taller guys. I just get flashbacks of some not so great players in our past in the first round. But I think Travis Hunter kind of fits a different style. And I don't know if he really is that good while putting in that little preparation. I just think if he's going every week, building the chemistry, refining his technique, getting better as a route runner, I just think his hands are so good too. I think he's got a ton of potential to be a really, really good receiver here. And then Josh Simmons, he fell to 25. I'm going to say this is because of his injury. This is that true left tackle that you're talking about. And obviously the injury is a concern. He's supposedly ahead of schedule. He's got the size to be a tackle. He's got good enough arm length. He passes the test there. A guy who, if he was healthy, was thought to could possibly be the best tackle in this draft, the best true tackle. So I like that a lot. And then I had to give up one of the third-round picks to get up to 25 here. And then with my last pick, just Mason Taylor addressing the tight end position. I just think it's good to get somebody in here to pair with Hunter Henry. If it's not an early pick, still getting a guy who's got some talent to fill in that hole.
Yeah, I'll start here. Obviously, Travis Hunter is such a good prospect. I disagree with you just a little bit. Receivers got to be the easiest position to play in the NFL. Just in my opinion, it's tailored to the offense.
Yeah, Jalen Polk is doing a great job with that year one. He's a killer.
If you're a great athlete, like Travis Hunter is a great athlete with great movement skills and great ball skills. That is tailor-made for a receiver. Like his skill set is set up to be a great receiver in the NFL. You can't make contact with a receiver down the field. Like he is made to be a great receiver. And so I agree with you on that part, but I don't see the argument of, hey, he's going to go into receiver meetings and he's going to learn how to run better routes. His routes are damn good. He is so crisp. He's in and out of his breaks. Yeah, he might be able to learn the playbook a little bit more, but he's going to have to do that at whatever offensive program he goes to in the NFL. So I think that he's 100% worthy of the top 4 pick. I am not arguing that. I would take him if he was there. So I'm not disagreeing with that. I just disagree with the thought that like, oh, he didn't sit in meetings. He's going to be this all-world guy. He's already probably going to be an all-world guy, in my opinion. Like he's tailor-made to be an NFL receiver. But he, obviously plays both and he would be great there. So I love Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons for me before, the combine, I had him as my 9th best prospect in this class. I moved him up to 8 because everything that we heard at the combine was that he's going to be ready by mid-April, that he's way ahead of schedule, that there was like every NFL team that checked him said that his medicals were good. And he was a little bit shorter than I had initially thought he would be, but this dude played right tackle at San Diego State, left tackle at Ohio State. He was really good. I wanted to see him against the better competition. He got hurt in the Oregon game where they lost by 1 point. So I have no problem taking a Josh Simmons. If there are teams that are passing him because of the medicals, I would have no problem taking him because I think that that's another can't miss prospect that I would take a chance on. Like, he has too much. You've seen too much on tape and too much measurables and size that I take a chance with him. And then Mason Taylor is a guy that obviously has been performing well. He did great at the combine, and a tight end is something that I do think down the road. And this makes it a little bit easier taking one in the third round. You don't have to play him right away. You know, it's not taking this super high pick, like 7 overall, like I did. So I do like this structure also. Carlos, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue that Travis Hunter pick. That's a home run if he ends up falling to 4. So I'll just focus on the other 2. Josh Simmons, I'm just worried about him because of the injury. That's my biggest concern. That's why I never, ever, ever mock him to the Patriots, just because he's like a perfect mold for someone like the Niners, for example, someone like the Chiefs. They just signed Jalen Moore, have Josh Simmons heal up behind the scenes. If the Patriots sign a left tackle like Jedrick Wills, Cam Robinson, then the Josh Simmons pick would make a lot more sense. I just think right now, with the way the team's structured, you can't really like rely, because you're going to start the season with Darian Lowe if Josh Simmons is the pick at left tackle. That's like the only issue. He's coming off of that patellar tendon. That's Cole Strange took over a year to come back from that.
But Cole Strange had a setback, didn't he?
I don't know. Did he? I don't
know. He's just not built like Josh Simmons is.
I thought Cole Strange had a setback, and I don't know to what extent it was. But
that sounds right.
Josh Simmons had that, if the medicals came back and they're like, oh, this knee looks bad, but for them to say he looks like he's going to be back in mid-April, and there's a chance he could even participate in somewhat of camp, not like full go. I have all confidence in the world of him. But you go ahead, Carlos. I was just asking that question. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I mean, it makes sense. Like, yeah, if Cole Strange had a setback, yeah, that makes much more sense why he took so long to come back. But that's just my worry. It's just the patellar tendon, that whole injury has become like the new ACL. Like, you don't know how players are going to come back from it, and to invest a first round pick on a guy that you don't know how he's going to come back from that serious injury. I feel like the Patriots of the past, when they were picking 25 to 32 every single season, like that would be an ideal pick. With them being a rebuilding team, it's just a bit more risky. Like, I wouldn't hate it at the end of the day, but it's just very, very risky just for where they're at as like an organization. And then Mason Taylor, great. I would not be opposed to it. I like that pick. I know a lot of people have been mocking Elijah Arroyo too from Miami to the Patriots. So honestly, I view them as like interchangeable. I'm not saying they're the same prospect, but like, I've been seeing them too in the third round a lot. So whichever one, I wouldn't mind. Like, they're both good players.
The Mason Taylor or Elijah Arroyo conversation is the same as the Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland. What do you want more? Like, I know Elijah Arroyo, like you mentioned the Gronk thing. Elijah Arroyo literally said that he like models his game after Gronk. He's nothing like Gronk. The dude, I wouldn't trust.
That was Harold Fannin.
Sorry, you're right. That was Harold Fannin. My bad. Anyways, Elijah Arroyo is another guy who's an older prospect who's dealt with injuries also. And he's mostly been used like out wide in the slot and stuff. And so like the Mason, that's just the same argument that you're having in the first round. Like, do you want a pass catching Travis Kelce, Dalton Kincaid guy, or do you want a more polished run blocker and pass catcher?
Yeah. Real quick, Carlos, before we get to your mock, what are your thoughts on the Travis Hunter situation as far as his level that he played at in college, and how much, if at all, do you think spending more time with an actual receivers coach and being in the room and building chemistry and all that stuff, how much do you think that will affect his play, if at all?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. Like, I'm just a bit worried about Todd Downing being the receivers coach. If Travis Hunter is going to develop into an even better receiver, like now he's going to focus fully on one position. Todd Downing isn't the type of receivers coach that's going to teach technique, at least not from surface level. You wouldn't expect him to. So that's like my only worry. In terms of just him playing receiver though for the Patriots, like, that's your wide receiver one immediately. I've been following Travis Hunter since he was in high school. That guy, if I had to bet maybe I won't say it like this. If I had to bet half my money on a guy,
you don't actually have to bet anything. You can say all your money. It's okay.
If I had to bet all my money on a guy being successful in the NFL, it would be Travis Hunter. Like, that guy's been successful at every single level, from high school to when he was at at Jackson State, he was successful, goes to Colorado, plays against the top competition. He's successful. Like, he's literally a football player. He was made to be a football player. His athleticism is actually insane. If you watch his training videos, if you see him playing basketball, like the dude's doing windmills at 6 foot, like he's going to be a good NFL player. And if the Patriots get him, that's your wide receiver one, no questions asked. Like you're set. And then Cole, we were talking about it earlier. Like you put him in the slot in certain packages with Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez on either side. You have probably the best secondary in the NFL for those packages.
Oh my God, yeah. And maybe this is a guy like, say, the Patriots in a couple years make a deep playoff run. Maybe that's where you're putting him on both sides of the ball, and you're saying, hey, we need you here for these playoff games. And I mean, I would not want to be going up against that secondary. I'll tell you that. So, Travis Hunter basically his whole life has been the best player every time he stepped on the football field, and it might not continue with the NFL, but I think he's still going to be a damn good football player, and will certainly be our best receiver by far. I think finally getting a receiver that you feel like can be maybe your number one if all goes well. So that was obviously the reasoning behind the pick.
I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a second, and it's not even a reason I wouldn't take him. Like, I'm not saying this at all. His snap counts worries me. He's pretty much played like the equivalent of like 6 years in college with all of his snaps. He already is a little skinnier. He needs to add strength. His frame needs to add strength, and he doesn't take big hits. I'm not saying he like is just taking shot after shot, but the NFL is a lot more physical, and it's the best of the best athletes. And so he's dealt with injuries the last 3 years in college. You know, he had the one at his first year where what I believe it was like a lacerated, spleen or kidney? It was something crazy like that in the Colorado State game. Missed a couple games this year. And so that would be my one concern on him. And that's why I don't think he can play full-time both ways in the NFL. He can play receiver, and then he can go and play corner if he is on the Patriots. So what is Gabe saying?
Gabe's just being Gabe.
So that's funny. I'm just devil's advocate. Like I said, I'm not going to say no, we're not taking him at 4 just because of that, but that is a legit concern of mine personally.
Yeah, just to kind of use your own argument against yourself. If he is playing full-time receiver, you just said it yourself. Like, that's one of the most protected positions now, with the lack of physicality, that you can't just hit receivers across the middle like you used to be able to. So if that's really what he's playing, and he did add size on all just before his pro day, I mean, before the combine, he added some size. So I think they'll continue to do that in the NFL, just in the weight training programs. If he can protect himself as a receiver, and he's getting protected by the officials and the rules of the game in today's NFL, then maybe that toll on his body doesn't take the same hit. And I know you see it a lot with like running backs and stuff like that. It shows up late in their career. But I guess you just hope that you can manage him correctly and protect his body. He feels like he can do this forever. He's not going to be saying that. I don't think when he's 28, 29 years old, he's going to be like, oh God, I feel like I'm 60. But I think if you use him correctly, that's why I'd focus on one side of the ball. If you're going to play him at receiver, just keep him there, and maybe you do it a few snaps on defense. But if this guy can go be a number one receiver for us, I think that's plenty worth the 4th overall pick. So I'd be fine taking him.
Yeah. Cool. Carlos, I want to go to your first mock draft. I do have your second one in here that you did. I want to go to your first one because this is a guy that I've always been high on. Some people may not have been as high on him, but this is a guy that I've loved since last year. Tetairoa McMillan. I do like this draft a lot, so I want you to talk us through this.
Okay, so not to crush your dreams, Jace, but if Travis Hunter had fallen to number 4 here, I would have taken Travis Hunter.
I agree with that.
But the reason why I took
hang on. We got to address this.
All right.
We just talked in text hours ago, and you said if he's playing receiver, if we're playing him at receiver, I'm taking Tet over Travis.
But you're not. You know that if you take Travis Hunter, he's playing both ways. You're not taking Travis Hunter.
I don't think you know that.
I don't think with the signing of Carlton Davis, I don't think that's a guarantee.
I don't think it is.
He will play defensive snaps.
He said he would prefer to do that, but he said if a team wants me to pick a side of the ball, I'll let them decide. And I think that might be what happens, just based on your concerns. I think that's going to be concerns of NFL teams.
He'll play primarily offense, but he will play corner.
I think it's a possibility, but if he's staying on one side of the football,
you guys just said talk about him being in the slot with them. Like, Why wouldn't you put him there for certain plays?
The reason you wouldn't is because if you think he can't get enough preparation in the offensive and defensive meeting rooms, and you're worried about the toll on his body, then you just say, listen, I'm going to put him at wide receiver. He's going to be a stud receiver for us, and that's his position. And if you get 2 years in, and you're like, it's just not working, I think he's going to be better as a corner, then maybe you switch him to corner. And that's always a fail-safe you have with the option with Travis Hunter. But if you're playing him just at receiver, you're taking Tet over Travis. Correct, Jace?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's just receiver, I think Travis is such a good. I think Travis is such a good prospect because he has the ability to do both of them. And not that I would make him do it every single snap, but if you're taking Travis Hunter, I want him on both sides of the ball at some point in pretty much every game. So, but go ahead, Carlos, continue.
Yeah. So, Travis Hunter would have been my pick at 4. Ted McMillan, I will say this. I much rather take him in a trade down.
Agreed.
That's the only concern, that it's like who would trade up to number 4. But
yeah,
I just think that the way the season or the offseason has gone, you need to get a wide receiver in the building that's not a low first round pick, second round pick, third round pick that you're just going to bank on them developing into a number 1 wide receiver. So there's no one better than that than Ted McMillan. He would be like my ideal pick for them. The only concern I have about Tet McMillan is that Josh McDaniels never really utilizes an X receiver. Like, he never, ever had them be the focal point of an offense of his.
Except with Randy Moss.
Yeah. Was he the OC during that time?
I think that was his first or second year.
Yeah,
it was,
I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong for having done it. I'm just
I think it was him, and then obviously they had that year, and then he left, and then that's when who was it came in after him? Was it Dable for a year or two? After
Bill O'Brien.
Oh yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. Sorry,
Yeah,
Bill O'Brien after, but yeah, I'm pretty sure McDaniels was.
Yeah, so, I mean, well, other than Randy Moss, which obviously is the focal point of your offense, like there's never been an X. So that's my only concern. Moving on to Ariante Ursary, what better left tackle would you want to take at the top of the second round? Maybe Connerly. I know that's like a big debate, Connerly or Ursary. But Ursary is just a prototypical left tackle that what position he's going to play. He has experience at the position, and you just hope that he develops into your starting left tackle. Kyle Kennard, I don't know, maybe it's bias, but I think he's such a cool prospect and such a great guy too. Funny story. I even told him when I talked to him at the Senior Bowl, he was like one of my first 200 followers on Twitter randomly, just because I posted a clip of him and Keon White. And so I even asked him what would it mean to team back up with Keon? And that would be so, I genuinely think that Keon needs someone to be his best friend in that locker room, just for him to actually have fun playing football. Because I think right now he's viewing it as too much of a grueling task that he's not really having fun with it. Maybe I'm dissecting the situation way too much, but just having someone that is very close with him in that locker room, rushing off the opposite edge, I think would be a perfect situation for him. Deion Walker, he's been my draft crush since last season. The only concern with him is that even though he's 6'7", 340 pounds, he's not a run stopper, but I think he could definitely develop into one. That's the only downside right now of draft or mock drafting him to the Patriots, is because they need a guy that's going to stop the run, because Milton Williams doesn't do that. If you don't have Christian Barmore there, he would be our only other true run stopper. And then even after that, they don't have a true run stopper. He's actually a better pass rusher, which makes no sense for his size, for Kairos Tonga. I don't know why. I don't know why. If you look at his PFF,
what did I do? There we go.
It's because he has
much better pass rusher. It's interesting. I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to each pick, but the Deion Walker one would be my favorite if it was at the very end, or all the way until the third round. It's just a matter of developing it into a run blocker or run stopper. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I do like Tet in a trade down more, but if Travis is gone, and I don't know if we don't do any, if we don't add anything, this is what I would prefer. I just feel like if you got to reach at 4 to get Tet, and you really just feel confident in him doing that, I'm okay with that. I also, if they feel really confident in one of the tackles, or one of the maybe Will Campbell guard tackle, if they feel really confident, which the reports are saying they like him, there's fans of him in the room at tackle, to try him there. if they take Will Campbell, that's a situation where I feel like you got to trade up and try to get yourself like a Matthew Golden type guy. I just feel like he might go too high. I feel like he might go top 20, top 15. And in that case, you're not trading up that high probably. So then maybe you go Jaden Higgins in the second round instead. But I feel like the first 2 picks have to be some combination of receiver and tackle at this point, just the way the offseason has gone so far. And maybe that changes. Maybe they address it. Maybe they trade for a Brandon Ayuk or a Chris Olave. Doesn't seem likely. I don't think it's going to happen. We keep going from one person to the next. And we just haven't got a receiver yet. That's a stud. But Carter was gone in this mock, and so was Travis Hunter. So I think Tet is acceptable.
So I just rewatched a bunch of receivers because on the other podcast that we do, we're doing receivers tomorrow, ranking them top 10. I absolutely love Tetairoa McMillan. Guys, 6'4" and 1/8. Like, he's massive. He has the arm span to be that X receiver. The crazy thing too is everyone's like, oh, he's big. He can't do anything except for this. He forced 29 missed tackles, which was tied for 3rd in the country. He's had the lowest drop rate of receivers with 100+ targets, and that's a 2% drop rate. He has sure hands. And then since 2023, he's the 3rd highest graded receiver on PFF. He has the 2nd most receptions. He has 2,712 yards, which was the most in college football, 35 contested catches, and 70 explosive plays, which is a 20+ yard reception. The other thing I wrote down that I love about him is Tetairoa McMillan. He gives you great yards after the catch. He had 433 yards after the catch this year. That was 45 less than Travis Hunter, and Travis Hunter had 11 more receptions than him. So in my opinion, it's a guy that's a bigger frame, bigger body, wants to do everything on the outside that the X receiver, in my opinion, is one of the hardest things to find in the NFL. AJ Browns, DK Metcalfs, although T Higgins, those guys are hard to find. Like, that's why everyone's always searching for a big bodied receiver, because when you find one that's good like this, it changes the game. It changes the complexion of your offense. And yeah, the Patriots missed with N'Keal Harry. You know, they hadn't had one since Randy Moss and stuff. So for me, Tetairoa McMillan, he is super acceptable to take at 4. Would I like them to trade down and get him? Heck yeah, because I'd take him at 4. So I would love if they could trade down and get him. But after rewatching his film and obviously being high on him, I freaking love Tet McMillan. I think that him and Drake May would feed families, like people say on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about this, Carlos, but the only thing that concerns me is not running the 40 at your combine or your pro day. What are you worried about? If you run just an average 40, you're locking yourself into probably the top 6 to 8 picks. Is he worried that he doesn't have that speed and he's going to fall out of the top 20? Like, I feel like if he had a good 40 time under his belt, he would be running it. That's my concern there. But I will say, for his size, his run after catch ability, Jay sent me a clip the other day of just his movement once he got the ball in his hands, making defenders miss. That is very impressive. That's one of the most impressive things about him. His catch radius, his size, his hands. I just think he does a lot of things well. That concerns me a little bit. I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned about his overall speed. And yes, game speed could be different. And like Jason and I talked about last time, if they have the in-game speed trackers on him, maybe his numbers are fantastic and they're like, I don't care about the 40. Because that really is what matters. And that's what you and I were talking about earlier with N'Keal Harry. You were like, his 40 time was barely slower than AJ Brown, but it's like he doesn't, when he's in the game, he doesn't play fast like AJ Brown. He looked like he was a tight end out there on outside the numbers trying to run a route. And it's like, what is it? It just doesn't look the same. So maybe that's the case for Tet. Maybe he doesn't have a great 40, but you clearly see the movement skills on tape. Yeah. Like, it's there for his size, which is impressive.
Yeah. I said this, and Carlos, you can let me know your thoughts. I know that they have the speed trackers on him. I know that they know how fast he's running. Cole, what would you say would be fast, like miles per hour wise, for Tet McMillan? Like, what would you say would be fast for him?
45 miles an hour.
You're such a bad.
That's fast.
That's really fast.
That's very fast.
And being realistic, what is fast for Tetairoa McMillan?
I don't know. I'd say
miles per hour.
Yeah, I'm not gonna know what kilometers per hour or feet per second. Like, I'm not
I don't
doing
know. Up in Maine, you guys might do some weird
that. Oh,
crap.
come on. What do you think we are over here?
Yeah.
I don't know. Low 20s is
So on
probably acceptable.
On
Like
Bruce
20.
Fieldman's freak list this year, they said that in college they were testing him in practice and stuff. He ran 21.8 miles per hour, so almost 22 miles per hour. So, like you mentioned, low 20s, but I agree with you. His quickness is not what you're drafting him for. It's not what you're drafting him for. But this dude would be no slower than Mike Evans. I would put money on it. He's probably not running a 4.45. He's probably running in the low 4.5s. I bet he's 4.52, 4.53. But when you get on the field, he stacks defenders. He's running 20 plus miles an hour. He has those long strides. He eats up ground. Yeah, okay. The 40 is great. It's really fun to watch, but there's nothing on his film that I saw going up against good talent in the Big 12 and the good teams that he did go up against that said, this guy's slow or this guy's too slow in the NFL. So yeah, well, we know that at least Tet has longer arms than Will Campbell.
Wow. So now you're jumping on
Jace.
the T-Rex arms train, huh? That's
but no, but sorry, I'll move on. I like Ariante Arcery. He's 6'6". He's got that ideal body. He was like 33 and 1/8 inch arms. So for him being that tall, but that still meets the threshold. It's better. It was just like, why is he so tall but so short? But that's everyone in this class. And then Kyle Kernard was super productive. And then I agree, for a 6'7" dude as big as Walker, he should not have that foot quickness and should not be able to get past offensive linemen like he does. He's very intriguing. I just wonder, after signing Tonga, after signing Milton Williams, already having Barmore, I love this interior defensive line class. There's a ton of dudes. It's a deep class, but I wonder if they look at that as a need in the first 3 rounds, like maybe it was in a week or two ago for some fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One last thing on T-Mac. You talked about his quickness not being necessarily the thing you're drafting him for, but a lot of the things you see on tape and in his highlights is him winning on a slant and then getting the ball and going after the catch. So it's like, maybe his quickness isn't elite, but you still do see flashes of that where he can win quickly off the line.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just his catch radius and just throw the ball ahead of him and he's going to get it before the defender. Like, I think there's different options there, but I do like this mock overall. I think you're getting Tet. I think you're getting a guy who has true left tackle potential. And you're addressing the defense side of the ball at 2 potential positions of need. I know we did address them in free agency, but Kayvon Chaisson's not a long-term solution. He's a 1-year deal. Keon White, we'll see how long he's here. I do think same with Harold Landry. He's a 3-year deal, so hopefully he's here a little longer. But if he doesn't have as much success as we hope and he has another down year, then maybe he's not here as long as we think. So I always love getting some guys in the trenches. It's an important spot.
Yeah. Let's move to your second mock, and we'll just wrap up here because a lot of people are asking, and we've talked about it. Obviously, Will Campbell at 4. Jaden Higgins is a guy we've talked about. Ozzie Trapillo, and then Deone Walker, who you already took. So tell us maybe why you would be interested in taking Will Campbell at 4.
So this one, I literally just flipped the first 2 picks instead of a wide receiver first and tackle second. I flipped it. Will Campbell, obviously, in my opinion, best offensive lineman prospect in the draft. I'm not going to say best tackle prospect, but I agree with that. I agree 100%
I've
been saying
with that.
over and over again. I've been saying that I think Will Campbell is the best. Like, Will Campbell there's a bigger gap between Will Campbell and the next best left tackle. I'll put it like that. I think that there's less of a gap between Tet McMillan and the next best wide receiver, personally. So that's why if they were to take Will Campbell, I wouldn't be opposed to it. And then that's why you have that Ozzie Trapillo pick in the 3rd round, because that's someone that could definitely play left tackle. You're giving yourself kind of some insurance that, like, okay, worst case scenario, your number 4 pick becomes an all-pro left guard. Like, that's for being a worst case scenario, that's not too bad, right? So it's like you do leave yourself up to question at left tackle, but you have 2 shots at it, essentially. And then you have a Jaden Higgins that can be your wide receiver that steps in. I think Jaden Higgins is so good, and I think he's very underrated for this draft class. But he is shooting up boards. So I think the most controversial pick in this would be Will Campbell.
Yeah.
It's risky. There's risk involved.
If Alaric Jackson can be successful in the NFL I think he has like the same arm length, or just somewhere.
I think it was shorter, wasn't it? 32.5, and
yeah,
Campbell was 5/8.
It's not good.
Yeah, like if he can be successful in the NFL and get a big long-term extension, but Will Campbell, who was an SEC like dog at left tackle for years, like, but he can't be successful, I don't even know what to expect anymore. So I just think Will Campbell should be the pick if Travis Hunter isn't there and if Abdul Carter aren't there.
Yeah, Will Campbell's film is elite, some of the best in this class, and I always go film doesn't lie, and film's first, and I think that he would be like you mentioned, like, is it a reach to take a interior offensive lineman if that really what he is at pick 4? Maybe. But if you get an all-pro offensive lineman on this offensive line, that's what they need. He could instantly be the best guy on this offensive line. That would, obviously take a lot to pass a Winu, but he could come in and then your interior set. But the length is a little bit of concern. Hopefully the combine was a little bit wrong, because a lot of guys that measured at the Senior Bowl in the combine, like Cole's brought up before, were just like, what, an eighth or a quarter of an inch off?
No,
like
it was
I
think it was like almost half an inch.
Jalen Milroe's hands grew like a full inch or something like that.
Yeah, that one was crazy. That one was nuts. So maybe the guy measuring these things were just drunk. I don't know. If that was the case, if Will Campbell, and that's why I say I would start him at tackle, because he does have elite film against some of the best competition in the world, well, in college, and he's going up against Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, James Pierce, and he had success against those guys. So I would start him there and just see. But my gut feeling tells me with his length concerns, he's probably going to kick in at some point in his career. But yeah, it's the biggest need on the roster, in my opinion. So I would not have a hard time pulling the trigger on Will Campbell. Him and Tet for me would be hard, because I like Tet more as a prospect with his measurables, but I feel like tackle's a little bit more important to get right now.
So, Carlos, the only thing that I have talked to Jace about before with Alaric Jackson's arm length is, yes, it's shorter, but he's proven that he can do it at an NFL level where we haven't seen that from Will Campbell yet. And that doesn't mean he can't do it. I mean, he's done it, like we talked about, against some of the best competition in college, some of the best pass rushers in this class, and there's some good ones. If he ends up being a left guard, it's just really hard to justify that pick unless he really is that all-pro Hall of Fame eventually, like, level prospect at tackle. And if they think he's going to end up being a guard, even if they think he's going to be a really good guard, I'd prefer probably to take the risk, maybe less of a risk, on Tet, and just say, this guy's going to be a good receiver. Is he going to be elite number one? He has the potential to be, but I think overall he's probably at least going to be a good receiver. So maybe that's more valuable than a guy who you feel is going to be a left guard. But if they go measure his arms themselves and say, hey, he's an eighth of an inch off the threshold, I think this guy's tape's good enough, then I'd be comfortable taking him at 4. I think Jason and I talked about this. If he was at least 32 7/8, Jason and I were comfortable taking him at 4. So if he's really closer to that, the tape shows that he's great, and that mentality he has, and just the drive and his mindset, I absolutely love it. I think he would be just such a dog in the room, and having him and pairing him with a guy like Morgan Moses, like, that's fun to think about in that tackle room. So would you take Campbell over Tet, or like the both mocks you did were different at 4? Which one would be your preference in general?
Preference, I would say Will Campbell, just because I think Tet McMillan, we were talking about it, and just like Jace, you kind of mentioned it, or not mentioned it, but when you were talking about Tet, all I was thinking was that there's a good chance he makes it to like the 15 to 20 range. And I genuinely think that you could trade up into that range.
I've mentioned that.
Imagine leaving a draft with Will Campbell and Tet McMillan in the first round.
What would they have to get? What would they have to give up to move up? Because they're at 38 right now. That's almost that's 19 spots. That is a ton of spots. And what team?
Let me take a peek.
At 15 is going to want to move? Let's just say that 12 with the Cowboys, but I think the Cowboys would take him at 12.
I think that's too high.
I don't think he's
a trade. Like, if he falls to like 18, I think that's probably like the highest you could.
Yeah, I would. 20 would be like, I think 20 is like ideal. Like anywhere between 20 and 25, if he's still there, I think there's no question that you trade up for him.
But like, I don't think if he falls to like, if he's at like 14, I think that's too high. Like, I think
I don't know any team that would move down 19 spots.
Oh, didn't the Lions
just for a bunch of future picks? I don't know.
The Lions kind of did that with Jahmyr Gibbs, right?
I think
was it the Vikings that traded with them?
But I think they went from like 20 to 12,
the Texans,
right? They went
all
like
the way
32, 33, something like that.
Yeah, Texans went all the way up to 2 or 3 from whatever to
12.
get. Yeah.
12. Yeah.
So that's
I don't know.
a pretty big jump too.
I think it's a huge jump, but yeah, I mean, I personally, I've said this before and I stand on this. I think that he got the information he didn't need to run. I wish he would run. I wanted to see him run his 40. I just think he got the information from whether it was a scout or teams. He hasn't taken a visit with anyone outside of the top 12. I think he got the information that someone or multiple teams in the top 12 would be willing to take him without seeing the 40. And he felt like he didn't need to. Drake London never ran a 40. I know he was coming off an ankle injury. Drake London never ran one. Like you've seen crazier things, and you've seen people with, in my opinion, not as good of film and not as good of movement skills, in my opinion, that have gone higher than what people are talking Tet will go. So if he were to fall, I would love for it to happen. But I personally don't think he's fallen past like 12. I think Dallas would jump all over him at pick 12 with CeeDee Lamb. They jump all over that.
Really quick, Mekhi Becton just signed with
the Patriots.
With the Chargers.
You jerk. You jerk.
He just signed with the Chargers. I'm pretty sure that's true. It's from an Eagles reporter, but he's signing a 2-year deal with the Chargers.
How much was it? Does it say the money?
I don't think the numbers are out yet. No.
Huh. Interesting. But
if Ricky's not reporting it, I'm not believing it. Yeah. No. So. Yeah. 2-year deal. All right.
Cool. Well,
just on the trade thing, I looked up. It said basically Pats would have to trade their second rounder, their first, third, and then something on top of that. Like their second, third would be a little too much. So maybe, but their next pick would be not enough. So it would take a lot. Like unless you're taking maybe this year's second and a future second or something like that. I don't know. But
seems like a lot for, in my opinion, a team that still needs a lot.
Yeah, I agree. But if you really believe that Tet's worth taking at 4, a couple second round picks is not going to stop me from taking him at 18 if he's there.
I guess I love Ted at pick 4, but Jaden Higgins at pick 38 is like my dream this year.
Like if they don't take round 1, yeah.
Yeah, if they don't get, and gosh, I guess even if they take Travis Hunter at 4, I would still take.
Oh wow,
Jaden Higgins. Dude, Jaden Higgins at 6'4" on the outside, and Travis Hunter being able to play opposite at the Z.
Listen, why do we need receivers with our first 2 picks if they're the top 5 group in the NFL?
Because these guys are good receivers. But it's going to take pressure off of Jalen Polk, Javon Baker. They're
not going to have a job anymore.
No,
they're going to take pressure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of pressure.
After how high they're talking, after how high they're talking about Javon Baker, he's going to have a role. He's going to have a role unless he absolutely screws it up off the field. But the new staff seems to love him.
We can't rule that out.
We can't.
I mean,
but
we've really only seen one report that they like what they've seen from him so far, right?
Yeah.
That him and Vrabel have a very good relationship.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Carlos, did you see the video of Steve Smith on Underdog talking about Jalen Polk's rookie year? He graded it, bro. Yeah. And again, I do believe that obviously the players have a huge impact, but I think they put so much on his plate. They had high hopes for this guy, right? Rightfully so. I thought he was very productive on a team that went to the national championship, but they asked him to do a lot of things week in, week out, and he probably wasn't ready. And so hopefully they can figure that out and develop something out of him. But no, Cole, I know I talked about it and stuff and said that, it's not a bad receiver room. It's bad in NFL terms. There's no true wide receiver 1, but I believe there's a lot of talent on that. Kendrick Bourne had his best year under Josh McDaniels. Yeah, he's, getting up there in age. Douglas is continuing to develop. Kayshon Boutte looked really promising the last half of the season. And I still believe with a good staff like they have right now, Polk and Baker have something to prove. So, I mean, there's talent there. There's way more talent, in my opinion, than there was even a couple years ago. But we'll see. I would not be against taking 2 receivers like Travis Hunter and Jaden Higgins if that's what they want.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. Carlos, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but if you had to just guess, how many receiver rooms do you think are worse than the Patriots?
Worse?
Yeah, if any.
Maybe one.
Okay.
Two.
Yeah,
like genuinely, and
yeah,
like
that's where I
sad
said.
to say, but it's true.
Yeah, that's where I was at. I called it garbage today. Jace was not a fan of that.
I wasn't a fan.
But if you're one of the one or two worst rooms at your position in the NFL, I think that's fair to call garbage. It's just not. It just hasn't been good enough. It's not been NFL caliber. And yes, there's young guys. Yes, they have potential, but they haven't shown it yet, and they haven't proven it yet. And I think with offering Chris Godwin $30 million a year, with offering Calvin Ridley all that money last year, trying to get Ayuk, I think they're telling you, hey, we don't have confidence in our room. It needs to be better, and it needs to be a lot better. So I think they're taking big swings, and hopefully they can get that in the draft if they can't find it via trade. And obviously they didn't really hit any home runs in free agency. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we got to get offensive line, and we got to get a receiver, and so it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to do continued draft talk and stuff. But yeah. I mean, anything else to add before we hop off? I mean, lots of free agency draft stuff, but anything else?
You got anything do you want to touch on, Carlos? Or you all set?
No, I'm expecting at least some sort of offensive line signing in the coming days.
Hopefully.
I hope so. Yeah, that'd be good.
Well, we've taken enough up of your time. We really appreciate you hopping on. It's always fun. We'll have to have you on again, do some more mock drafts or something, and then maybe post draft we can get you on to get your reactions to everything. So we appreciate it. And like Jace said, I'm sure you guys are all following Carlos already, but if you're not, Los Talks Pats on Twitter. Go give him a follow there, and make sure you guys are subscribed here. All you guys watching tonight.
Yeah, subscribe to our podcast account too on YouTube. We're trying to get more people on YouTube because we see how active the chat is here. And every time I talk to my co-host Andrew, I'm like, Patriots Drive, look at their chat. Like they have it's like so active. So go subscribe to Patriots Pulse podcast on YouTube as well.
I think Huzzy was mentioned about 615 times tonight. So
that's 90% of the comments. So
yeah, that's basically the whole thing.
Follow Carlos on anything, get his podcast, help him going. And then if you guys are over on his Twitter, we would love for you guys to jump over here. We do mock draft Mondays every Monday. And so different scenarios, whether you love them or hate them. Whatever. Yeah, Gabe is carrying the chat right now. Oh, sorry, Cole. Oh, sorry, Cole. Oh, sorry, Cole. Gabe is carrying the chat and stuff. But no, if you guys are over on his Twitter, hop over here. We try to give as good of news as Carlos does. It's just in a little more video format and stuff. So, but if you guys hop over, we'll mock drafts, live stream, stuff like this. We will obviously have Carlos on way more.
Yes.
He's our number one recurring guest.
Show. Yeah, he's our favorite guest for sure. He's the man. So we appreciate it as always.
Just Carlos. Don't join a fantasy league with him because he hoards all the picks.
Yeah, Carlos has picks 1 through 10 in the first round every year.
I think he's doing one of those YouTube challenges where it's like, get the whole first round of picks and stuff. It's like
that's what I used to do. Picks. That's what I used to do on Madden. Is I used to trade back every time until I had the whole first round.
Yeah, that's funny. So no, but we appreciate it all, and follow Carlos, follow us. More Patriots content for sure coming up. But take us out, Cole.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, guys. Let us know in the comments which draft you like the best. And if it wasn't mine, then just leave your thoughts to yourself. So until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.